Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Disney freaks out as hostile takeover heats up. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Yahoo Finance, Disney's feud with activist investor Nelson Peltz is heating up. Why it matters for Bob Iger. From The Hollywood Reporter, and this is a really unusual story, Disney enlists Professor Ludwig von Drake, who essentially is an old Donald Duck German professor, to help fend off activist investors. The Mouse House is fending off a proxy fight from Nelson Peltz and his Trian partners, as well as Blackwell's capital, and using the animated character to tell shareholders how to vote. It's extremely deceptive. It's very unusual. We will get into it. Coming from Variety, this was a few months ago, and this was a little strange. Disney board adopts new rules for nominating directors in wake of Nelson Peltz's announced proxy fight. And this was back in November when Disney realized they're going to have a serious problem with Nelson Peltz. They created new bylaws, which are rules for normal company operations, that require any person directly or indirectly soliciting proxies using its own proxy card use a proxy card color other than white. This is key because what Disney did in this video when they sent instructions to shareholders was to essentially tell them, don't use any card other than a white card or your vote won't be counted. They were very sneaky in how they did it, but they make it look like if you vote using the card not provided by Disney itself, as opposed to the competitor Nelson Peltz or the Blackwell's Capital people, that your vote won't be counted. I was really shocked to see this because I know that Bob Iger is sneaky and I know Bob Iger doesn't want Nelson Peltz on his board of directors. He doesn't want to have to answer to them. I get all of that. But the lengths that Bob Iger is going to try to mislead shareholders and not inform people as to what's actually going on with the company. Keeping in mind, Nelson Peltz owns around $3 billion worth of stock. What he's saying is, let's make sure when we make decisions on behalf of the shareholders, we are considering what actually benefits the shareholders. And Bob Iger refuses to have that mentality on the board of directors. He does not want to listen to those people. It's really incredible. I've really never seen anything like it. And I've seen a lot of crazy things all the way back to the 1980s with all of those hostile corporate takeovers. Bob Iger is something else. He's a real piece of work. Coming from The Wrap, Disney activist investor Blackwell's Capital proposes a company split. The firm is looking to secure 3 seats on the entertainment giant's board at its annual meeting on April 3rd. This is not the Nelson Peltz group. This is a different activist investor group that wants its own people on the board of directors to suggest different things that might be beneficial for Disney shareholders overall. I still feel like the Blackwell's Capital people, though, are a separate stalking horse to create a distraction that will still help Bob Iger. Because for whatever reason, Blackwell's Capital doesn't like Nelson Peltz. So all this extra conflict only serves to benefit Bob Iger in maintaining control of Disney. Coming from Yahoo Finance, Disney's feud with activist investor Nelson Peltz is heating up. Why it matters for Bob Iger. Disney stock is bouncing back from the multi-year lows it hit in 2023. But investors are still grappling with an ongoing question heading into the company's earnings on Wednesday. Will activist Nelson Peltz of hedge fund Trian Management succeed in shaking up the entertainment giant's board? Stockholders are unlikely to get an answer anytime soon. If the proxy battle continues to a vote, a shareholder meeting set to take place on April 3rd will ultimately determine the board's fate. Wall Street watchers have viewed the battle as a noisy distraction for CEO Bob Iger, who's currently in the midst of resetting the company's strategy. Nevertheless, the proxy fight continues to serve as a lingering overhang, clouding that goal. Trian Fund Management, which beneficially owns $3 billion of common stock, which just means that it controls $3 billion worth of stock, filed the definitive proxy statement last week after announcing plans to nominate Nelson Peltz and former Disney CFO Jay Rizzullo to the media giant's board. Rizzullo is the second former Disney executive to publicly join Peltz in his push for a board shakeup. Former Marvel executive Ike Perlmutter has entrusted his stake in the company to Peltz, making up the bulk of Trian's 30 million plus shares in the entertainment giant. Peltz ended a previous proxy battle against Disney 1 year ago after the company committed to various cost-cutting initiatives. He revived the fight last fall as Disney's stock price plunged. Trian Nelson Peltz's company has cited a loss of tens of billions in shareholder value, a drop in consensus earnings estimates for the next 2 years, and disappointing studio content as some of the reasons it's pushing for a board shakeup. Quote, "It's unfortunate that a company as iconic as Disney, and with so many challenges and opportunities, has refused to seriously engage with us, its largest active shareholder, about board representation," Peltz said in his initial proxy statement last month. He added the current board lacks an ownership mentality and mainly consists of legacy directors and hand-picked replacements who have failed to address some of the biggest issues at the company, including plans for a CEO successor, the path to streaming profitability, and a revamp of its box office. That issue of a CEO successor is a vital issue, and it's not just because it's Disney. Every public company must have a clear plan on what you would do to replace your CEO if your CEO was to leave. We know Bob Iger says he's going to leave in 2026. They should have a plan in place in case Bob Iger needed to leave right now. That's what public companies are supposed to do. It's the fault of Bob Iger and the board of directors, and it points to something really suspicious. Something isn't right, that they don't have a simple plan for the CEO to get replaced. In a new letter to shareholders on February 1st titled "Restore the Magic," the activist hedge fund said it would initiate a board-led review of the company's creative processes, in addition to pushing management to implement executable plans as it relates to its streaming and theme park businesses, along with executive pay and succession. As part of Trian's proxy statement, Peltz named the 2 existing board members he's seeking to replace: former MasterCard executive Michael Froman and Maria Elena Lagomasino, CEO of wealth management firm WE Family Offices. A Disney spokesperson said in a statement to Yahoo Finance that Froman and Lagomasino are highly valued and engaged members of the board. Disney has said it's made significant progress in strategically realigning the business in order to foster growth and create shareholder value. Some changes have included the implementation of new revenue streams like the ad-supported tier for its streaming service Disney+, which is a strategy they just duplicated from Warner Bros. Discovery Max service. Netflix is doing it now as well. It's nothing innovative, but it is working for them. In addition to price increases, which is also something the Max people and Netflix people did first, and password sharing crackdowns, which is also something that was done at Warner Bros. Discovery and at Netflix first. The company has also said it's actively engaged in the high-priority work of succession planning, with Iger's contract set to expire at the end of 2026. They're a good 5-10 years behind their CEO succession planning. It's incredible it's gone on this long. Other shareholders are jumping into the fray as the proxy battle gains steam. Trian has received support from fellow activist investor Ancora. Meanwhile, Value Act Capital has come out against Peltz, giving Disney an extra boost and fighting off the billionaire investor. The activist entered into an information sharing agreement with Disney, which ensures it will support the media giant's recommended slate of board nominees in exchange for information. They're also being paid. Value Act Capital, a competitor of Nelson Peltz's, is actually being paid as a consultant by Disney. They're getting cash to cooperate with whatever Bob Iger wants to do. And Blackwell's Capital, which boasts a $15 million stake in Disney, has nominated studio executive Jessica Schell, Tribeca Film Festival co-founder Craig Hatkoff, and TaskRabbit founder Leah Sullivan for election to the board. In a letter to shareholders on Tuesday, viewed by Yahoo Finance, the hedge fund said Disney should consider splitting up the conglomerates into standalone public companies, which will absolutely never happen. If Disney was going to split its companies up, they would have done it a long time ago. It's just a distraction. Quote, Disney may be simply too complex for any one successor to Mr. Iger to manage holistically, and Blackwell's believes that it is the responsibility of the board to oversee these types of analyses in the ordinary course, the letter said. Disney did not immediately respond to Yahoo Finance's request for comment on the letter or a potential company breakup. The company has maintained it will only endorse its current members and encourage shareholders not to vote for Trian's or Blackwell's respective candidates. Wall Street analysts say Peltz's path to victory is challenging. Quote, Disney's a huge company, so it would be very difficult for Peltz to amass enough shares to have a chance of really winning a vote, said Doug Kreutz, managing director at TD Cowen. If you own the stock, it's because you believe in Bob Iger, and Bob Iger has said he doesn't want Nelson Peltz on the board. He went on to call the proxy fight a distraction for Disney and said Iger has been focused on turning the business around amid a particularly challenging time in the industry. Steve Schiffman, former media executive and adjunct professor at Georgetown University, stressed that point to Yahoo Finance. These activists don't fully understand how systemic and seminal the marketplace is changing in media. The activists understand what's going on. Apparently, Bob Iger doesn't understand it because his moves haven't exactly been working, and everything Bob Iger has been doing has been following the leaders in the industry. I don't even know why you need Bob Iger there. You could put anybody in there just to duplicate what Netflix or Warner Brothers Discovery is doing. Schiffman pointed to the industry's ever-changing economics, which have included a shift away from linear television on the heels of increased cord cutting, while TV advertising has fallen off a cliff. Competition is also more intense than ever as legacy companies launch unprofitable streaming platforms amid surging content costs, while post-pandemic audiences significantly alter their viewing habits. Quote, the smartest media executives in the world right now are really struggling to figure out what to do here, and there are no easy answers, Schiffman said. At the end of the day, I actually think the Disney senior management team is quite good. I've seen some companies where that's not a reality. I don't think that's the case with Disney. And here's what Disney did to trick their investors into voting for their board of directors members and not Nelson Peltz's or the Blackwell's people. They didn't want anyone voting for anyone other than the people that would not hold the Disney executives accountable. They created a video featuring this German-accented duck who looks like Donald Duck to distract people from really what their voting options were. And then, of course, a few months ago, they made this announcement saying that they were only going to allow white cards for Disney's preferred board of directors as opposed to allowing everyone to use white cards. This was a change that Disney filed back in November. Coming from The Hollywood Reporter, Disney enlists Professor Ludwig von Drake to help fend off activist investors. Disney is calling on Professor Ludwig von Drake as its reinforcement in its board battle against Nelson Peltz and his Trian partners. The media and entertainment giant released an animated video on Monday urging shareholders to vote, but only for the company's preferred board members. The Austrian duck, who is the uncle of Donald Duck and an expert on many subjects in the Disney universe, guides the shareholders through the voting process that kicks off ahead of the April 3rd shareholder meeting. In the video, which also pulls in other Disney classic animation and the muses from Hercules, the voiceover repeatedly emphasizes the company's preferred method of voting, which involves selecting its 12 nominees who appear on a white proxy card, while suggesting that voting any other way is incorrect, meaning that your vote won't count unless you vote the way that Disney wants you to vote. In my marketing business, we're very familiar with books like this, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. This is a fantastic book. And to give you an idea of some of the examples that they cover in Influence, when you're at McDonald's and you place your order and they say, hey, would you like fries with that? They're upselling you. There's a moment in time where you're more likely to say yes. It's the first couple of seconds after they ask you, would you like fries with that? Even when you had already previously decided what your order was, just by them asking you that, would you like fries with that? It triggers something within people where they tend to want to say yes. Not that everybody says yes, but many people do. Topics like that are covered in Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. There are many other books. The idea is to give tools to marketing people to better communicate with people to get their idea across. But there are very unethical ways it can be used, and I don't like what Disney did here. Quote, remember, it's important you only vote for Disney's 12 nominees using the white proxy card. Do not vote for the Trian Group or Blackwell's nominees, the video states. Voting this year is critical, no matter how many or how few shares you may own. Asked about what to do with the blue or green cards, the video states that shareholders may simply discard them. Quote, remember, it's important that you only vote for Disney's 12 nominees using the white proxy card. Do not vote for the Trian Group or Blackwell's nominees, the video again repeats. That repetitiveness is very influential. This was designed deliberately by people that know what they're doing. I've seen the video. It's not just there for information. It's also there for persuasion. Voting for most shareholders must be submitted before 11:59 p.m. on April 2nd, 2024, but Disney urged voters to do so as soon as possible. And here's what the Blackwell's people want to do. From the Wrap, Disney activist investor Blackwell's Capital proposes a company split. Blackwell's Capital has proposed that Disney undergo a real estate and strategic asset review, including a potential split of the company as part of a plan to help turn its business around. I have seen other analysts suggest that Disney's real estate is very undervalued, that their theme parks is actually an incredibly successful business. They could spin that off as a separate company and still retain a lot of it and get some additional market value out of it to help return some value to shareholders. They can do stuff like that. Companies do things like this. Disney has not tended to do things like this, so it's unlikely they would do it, but this does look like an unrealistic distraction. In a proxy filing on Tuesday, the activist firm noted that Disney has an almost unimaginable portfolio of real estate around the world, with tens of thousands of acres of land, over 30,000 hotel rooms, thousands of vacation club units, and more, while acknowledging that those real estate holdings could be used as a potential source of long-duration capital to address balance sheet and income statement challenges and opportunities. The firm argued that they're being obscured by the company's conglomerate structure. Quote, Disney could separate its own real estate, which represents approximately 44% of its market capitalization at cost, into an independent publicly listed real estate investment trust or series of investment vehicles in which the shares, cash, and/or interest could be distributed to shareholders, the filing states. And the reference to the conglomerate structure issue is that investors do like a pure play sometimes, like where you could say, well, you could invest in a company that strictly does this one thing. And as an investor, if you're interested in investing in that one kind of thing because you like the characteristics of that business, whether it's real estate or technology or manufacturing or entertainment, any of those separate specific categories, yes, it can be more attractive for investors. It can give you a better stock price, more value for the stockholders. But Disney has really never been of the mind to do something like that. Blackwell's pointed out their board nominee, Craig Hatkoff's nearly 50 years of public company service as an independent director, including at SL Green Realty Group. Quote, Mr. Hatkoff's substantial experience extends to exploring all strategic possibilities with cold eyes, including the potential separation of Disney into 3 entities, beginning with a management reorganization and leadership selection for each business and resulting in standalone public companies. Disney is not going to split itself up in 3 companies, especially not while Bob Iger is there, because Bob Iger likes and needs to have all the control of all these different divisions. He's never giving that up. In addition to Hatkoff, Blackwell's touted former NBC Universal and Warner Brothers executive Jessica Schell's experience in media and content monetization, including being an original member of the NBC Universal management team that launched Hulu. But we firmly believe Ms. Schell's contributions as a director will help Disney attain Netflix-like growth rates on subscribers and pricing for Disney Plus based on her expertise, with meaningful upside to be unlocked by integrating Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, the firm wrote. It also called on Disney's board to increase its focus on augmented and virtual reality, which it called a once-in-a-lifetime shift in consumer behavior and interaction. That didn't work so well for the Facebook Meta people, so I don't think Disney's going to be spending billions of dollars on virtual reality anytime soon. If someone else is successful with it, sure, they'll throw money at it, but I don't see them designing anything unique and actually having that work. They laid off all those people last time they were doing big layoffs. Blackwell's third nominee, Leah Sullivan, has had experience in AR, VR, and artificial intelligence as a general partner at Feud Capital. She also founded the on-demand marketplace company TaskRabbit, which scaled its international business to 44 cities before being sold to IKEA. Blackwell's argues that Disney's current board lacks the qualifications that its own candidates possess, noting that only 2 non-executive directors have significant media experience. It also slammed Disney's information sharing agreement with Value Act Capital, arguing the pact is, quote, proof positive that independent and new perspectives are necessary. Bob Iger can't last forever, and he's well aware if Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo get on that board of directors, he's going to have some very uncomfortable questions, and he will probably step down before he answers them. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.